Nididhyasanam is very different from that. Nididhyasanam means the absorption of the knowledge of Vedanta. A process of absorbing the knowledge of Vedanta in a setup is called Nididhyasana, as opposed to thoughtlessness. Thoughtlessness is far away from it. It's almost the opposite sides of it. And in a way, it's interesting, you can think about it, that Nididhyasanam and Samadhi are two separate aspects that come together. The ultimate end of Nididhyasanam also is pure jnanam without any thoughts. But the one where thoughts do not create a problem, Shrishti does not create a problem. Whereas in the yogic samadhi, it is also thoughtlessness, but thoughts create a problem. So these are totally different. So in the Nididhyasanam also you have thoughtlessness, but one where while you are living, if thoughts come, they are no longer injurious to you, no longer a problem to you. So therefore, Nididhyasanam, just as a summary, means the absorption of the knowledge of Vedanta. And we mentioned this in the previous class, and this is worth mentioning here. That means the absorption of the knowledge means the digestion of the knowledge. So Paramarthananji had given this beautiful example that really when you eat something, it is not beneficial to you until you digest it. Eating through the mouth is just a start. Beautiful example, I think. Really nice. I could understand the significance of this. Eating through the mouth is just a start. And yeah, you have to in order to digest, you have to eat it. No doubt about it. But to come to think of it, if you do not digest it, which is possible in some cases where you have indigestion or something, you have some stomach problem and so on, and the whole thing comes out and not digested by the human body, doesn't do any good to you. So similarly, the Shravanam and Mananam, the listening of the knowledge, is just a start. It's just a start. You have to really understand and digest the implications of it to yourself before you get the benefit of the knowledge. So therefore, Nididhyasanam is not fresh knowledge. It is not, you've already eaten. This is what happens in our life also, that you eat something and your hunger doesn't go. I tell you, this is one of the secrets of not overeating. Really, this is something which is not obvious. But what happens is that when you're eating, you do not feel satiated for a few minutes after eating. So until then, you keep on eating some more. Really, what you need to do is eat slowly so that before there is a lag and you feel satiated even before you finished eating. This is what needs to be done for eating purposes. Similarly, here also, Swami Paramarthananda pointed out so well, It doesn't matter how many Upanishads that you are reading. You can be reading just one Upanishad, but if you absorb it and understand it, this is what does the job. So Nididhyasanam, in a summary, is the process of digestion of the knowledge of Vedanta. This is how different it is from the yogic meditation. So the end is still the Nirvikalpak Samadhi. End is still the same Nirvikalpa Samadhi. But how it is done is totally different. And just as a reminder, just to make sure that we are absolutely positive about this, the example that we had taken up of you going to a movie should be kept in mind. This is a beautiful example. So the entire, all the steps of the Patanjali Yoga, which is yama, niyama, etc. And then ultimately the three ones, dharana, right? And dhyanam and samadhi, those three in the end are very important. So it should be seen to be watching a movie. So watching a movie means you have to take some steps to go to a movie. You have to clear your calendar and say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go watch a movie. You have to buy a ticket. You have to drive. You have to park. And so on and so forth. And then you sit down and you are watching a movie. So should be understood. This is a beautiful example that Swami Paramarthananda gave. So the last three steps of the Patanjali Yoga, which is dharana, dhyanam, and samadhi, should now be transformed into the elements of Nididhyasana. Because remember, one of the things we had talked about earlier was that we do not accept the premise of the Patanjali Yoga as a sadhya, but we accept it as a sadhana. The end result we do not accept, that it is just, it does not remove your ignorance. Samadhi, yogic samadhi does not remove your ignorance. Your ignorance stays as it is. So it is not what we want. We want to remove our ignorance of who we are. So the sadhya is different, but the sadhana is very important. The steps are all there. The sadhana is very much like going to a movie. So just look at these three: dharana, dhyanam, and samadhi. So dharana means, just imagine the process of going to a movie. Dharana means when you are entering the hall where you're sitting down and watching the movie, you have other thoughts in your life that need to be given up. If you want to really enjoy the movie, then the fact that you are having some problems here and you've got to do this, you have some to-do lists to do, those have to be given up. So you have to hold and in some ways all these commercials that come before a movie help you to do that. Because you're focused on it. It's not the main movie, but at least you are now sitting down, you've switched off your cell phone, and now, so this is now you're getting ready to see the movie. Then comes dhyanam. Dhyanam means you now have the ability to focus on what is it that you're doing. And so when the movie starts, you're looking at the characters, some introduction and so on. This is what. Then comes samadhi. The samadhi is two types. One is savikalpa samadhi and nirvikalpa samadhi. So this needs to be well understood. Savikalpa means, again I'm trying to distinguish between the Vedic meditation, which is nididhyasanam, and the yogic meditation, which is samadhi. I'm trying to distinguish, so look at this from that standpoint. So I'm talking about nididhyasanam, or actually just look at it from a yogic samadhi standpoint. The savikalpa samadhi means that there are thoughts still there in your mind. I am this, I'm sitting here and I'm doing this, etc. Nirvikalpa samadhi means there is no vikalpa. Nirgata vikalpa yasya means there is no vikalpa, and it is continuously Om, 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 no disturbance. This is the yogic samadhi. Now let's shift over to the nididhyasana, the Vedantic samadhi. In Vedantic samadhi, going back to the example of watching the movie, now the movie starts. So in the Vedantic meditation, the starting of the movie is samadhi. Okay, so bear with, just follow what I'm saying. Starting of the movie is samadhi. What do you mean by starting of the movie? That means you are now transforming your thoughts into the script of what the movie is. You're no longer looking at yourself as a mother, father, as a neighbor or anything like that. You are now watching the movie. Now, when you're watching the movie, there are two segments of watching the movie. One is savikalpa samadhi, and the other one is the nirvikalpa samadhi. So what is the difference between them? In savikalpa samadhi, you are aware of yourself watching the movie. You've given up all the other relationships. That one is gone. That is all in dharana and dhyanam. You're already in samadhi. You're watching the movie. But in watching the movie, you're saying, I am watching the movie. And it's very possible that at that point, if you're eating some popcorn, then you are saying, even though you are a movie watcher, but you are saying, I'm eating popcorn. So your thoughts are divided between the movie and you as a movie watcher. This is called savikalpa. Nirvikalpa means if the plot of the movie, if the movie itself is so engrossing, you give up your status as a movie watcher. You are one with the plot. You are identified with something. And now your emotions are one with the movie plot. This is called nirvikalpa samadhi. So remember this. In nirvikalpa samadhi, from a Vedantic standpoint, it is not thoughtlessness. It means that your transformation into an enjoying or suffering, as the case may be, the plot of the movie is now complete. Your identification is complete. You're not even aware of the popcorn. And in fact, you're not eating the popcorn. And if you are, then it is mechanical. You are totally involved with this. This happens to me once in a while, quite often. I don't go to the movies anyway. This is one of my wife's biggest complaints. And so she has to find other people and this, that, or the other. Especially Indian films, I just don't go to at all. Anyway, once in a while, if I do go, then she is actually watching me to see if I am in Nirvikalpa Samadhi or not. How is that? Because if I look at my watch, that means I am not in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, I am in Savikalpa Samadhi. Why? Because the plot has not engulfed me. It's not that important, not that engrossing. I'm still looking at it. I'm evaluating. See, that's the thing. Supposing you are going to a movie and you are saying, oh, this is slow, this is not very good. And I'm not sure. I went to this, there was some kind of about a year or two ago, I forget the name of the movie. It was a trashy movie. They had all kinds of strange 4-letter words they were using and so on. And I'm sitting there and saying, what am I doing here? Why am I here? And my wife was also apologetic. She says, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was this trashy. And so, I mean, even if it is not trashy and so on, if she's absorbed, where she's just sitting like this, and I'm looking at my cell phone, and cell phone I cannot look at because that gets, all I can do is I can just see how much time is left. I am in Savikalpa, she is in Nirvikalpa. And Nirvikalpa means you are very much involved with the plot. You see oneness. This is what is called Nididhyasana. So Nididhyasana means there is a plot that you need to appreciate. I am unborn, ajoham, amaraha. It's not possible for me to die. Aham shuddha, shuddha swarupa. These are the plots of the movie that I need to appreciate. And if I'm appreciating, like saying, oh, it says here, I'm amaraha, I'm ajaha, and so on, and I'm still thinking that I am the body, I'm the mind, and I'm the jiva, then you are not in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. You're not in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. But supposing you see, that's another thing, that to enjoy a movie, you must be up to it. Like a child, like a young kid, you go to an adult movie, one which is R-rated and so on, you cannot understand any of this. You may look at it, but it doesn't understand anything. So similarly here also, we have to come up to a stage where we can understand what the language is and what the vision is being communicated. If I do that, and I'm now, if I read something, it begins to make sense to me, I'm still eating it. I have still not digested it. To digest means the very language of it should start to engulf me. That becomes the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And with that, we saw that Nirvikalpa Samadhi. How do we know you are in Nirvikalpa Samadhi? For example, here you are absorbed within the movie and so on. But how do we know that there is Nirvikalpa Samadhi in Vedantic sense? This is where we were studying. So in the verses we saw, if you recall, there were seven different definitions or 7 different ways to say, yes, this is Nirvikalpa Samadhi. I am progressively moving into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And those were, if you remember, we have already done 4 out of them. Chitta Uparabanam. So this was given in one of the, I think, verse number 18 or 19, I forget where. Then Atmanaha Pashyan was number 2. Then Atyantika Sukham, number 3. I think we had gone up to the. And number 4, Yatra Ayam Sthitaha Tatvataha Na Chalati. This was number 4. And we can revise it sometime, but let's go on. There's a lot of stuff that we have to do today. So, let's go to number 5. This is given in verse number 22. And that is, Yam labdhva cha aparam labham manyate na adhikam tataha yasmin sthitaha na dukkhena guranabi vichalyate. So there are 2 definitions of Nirvikalpa Samadhi given in verse number 22. One is Yam labdhva na aparam labham. Yam labdhva na aparam labham. And then number 6 is Yasmin sthitaha guruna dukkhena va na vichalyate. So let's look at both of them. Let's look at the English translation. The 6th one is, having gained which knowledge, having gained which understanding, one does not think there is any other better gain than that. You are fully convinced, you can see that this is better than doing anything else. So this is says Yam labdhva na aparam labham manyate na adhikam tataha. There is nothing more than this. This is beautiful. So this understanding, this experience, if you want to do it that way, experience, not just theoretical understanding, but a firm understanding, is the number 6. Okay, so let's look into that. So here, Swami Paramarthananda has given a very beautiful explanation of this. He says, compare and contrast a luxury with a need. What is a luxury and what is a need? He says, I submit to you, a luxury is one where you are enjoying it, and if it is not there, you don't miss it. So we'll explain this in more detail in a minute, but let me give you the definitions of luxury versus need. A luxury is an experience that you enjoy while it is there, but if it is not there, you don't hanker for it. You are able to go without it. This is called luxury. Let's go to the definition of need. A need is something you are not aware of when you have it, but when you don't, you start missing it. Okay? So this is these are the two cases. Several examples are given here. So one of them, for example, is in a place like Rishikesh. What you find is that the sadhus, they just are given simple dal and roti. And Swami Dayanand used to say that in the morning it is dal and roti, and in the evening it is roti and dal. That's the only difference that occurs. And they are used to it. They don't need anything more. Perhaps you may have a little bit of pickle with it or something, but that's all. There's nothing more than they're happy with it. Okay. Then comes the time when we have a bhandara. So bhandara means that those people, if some of the students also do, I've also done it, we sponsor a special meal on a special occasion. One of our students' father had died, and she decided that she will sponsor a bhandara. And on the bhandara, then you invite people, and the meal is very sumptuous. It's not just roti and dal, there is rice and two kinds of sabzis, and then there is dessert and so on and so forth. And these sadhus, they all come and enjoy it. So this is called luxury. You call luxury and enjoy it. Next day they go back to dal and roti. There's no problem. You know, you enjoy the luxury, and then you go back to simple things. Okay? So now, the need is something which is very obvious to us sometimes. You know, so for example, electricity is a need. And power is a need. And we are not aware of the fact when there is power, because we expect it. We expect the power to be there. So power is not a luxury. Electricity is not a luxury. But if for some reason you lose power, you say, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? That happens to where I live, that happens very often. One time it was gone for 16 hours. We had to empty our refrigerators. So this is the situation. So now, in the case of this verse number 22, Yam labdva na aparam labham, means that having gained this understanding, this is luxury. This is like luxury. And having gained this luxury, if you were to not have the continuous experience of the Atma, and you are working with other things and so on and so forth, you are transacting, it does not cause a problem. Does not cause a problem. It is not like a need, because at the moment, my transactions in life is like a need. I need to feel happy in my transactions. And if my happiness is missing for some reason, I miss it. I hanker for it. Just so like electricity is no longer working and I am missing it. But for a jnani, yam labdvana aparam labham, you have the luxury of your own knowledge. And if that knowledge for some reason has to be set, if that understanding of the beauty and the ananda of that knowledge has to be set aside because you are transacting with things and so on, it does not cause a problem. Not cause a problem. In fact, what happens is you find that your transactions in life become not that meaningful to you. It's kind of like, working in some kind of a play. It doesn't really bind you to that effect, to that extent. And I'm telling you, this is exactly how, if you just keep doing this begins to happen. I can even see this now. That when things happen to me or something like this, they don't have the same bite into my life anymore. Why? Because I find that the real source of joy is me. And even if I am not in touch with that source of joy at the moment, it is kind of like a bhandara. I think the bhandara example is a very beautiful one. Because the bhandara is something very enormously beautiful. You can enjoy some special things, but you don't need it. You don't need it. It's okay. If I have it, I have it. So similarly here also I find that if things give me some worldly fun and pleasure, I'm okay with it. But if it doesn't, I don't hanker after it. This is a very beautiful example that Swami Paramarthananda had pointed out. So this is the number 5 of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. You are so enjoying the plot of the Vedantic teaching that you are no longer thrown off the saddle, so to speak, if you're riding a horse, by ordinary life's problems. They recede into, they still sting you. It's not as though it's not as though, as long as you are the body and the mind, of course things will sting you. But the sting is like a pinprick, more than any problem, huge problem. It just will go. That's another one. And another one, in fact, along with this is the second line, which is number 6. Yasmin sthitaha guruna dukkhena vichalyate. That means that when that happens, when something bad happens to a jnani, nothing shakes that person away from rooted into an understanding of what it is. Guruna vichalyate. Here the word guru has two, word guru in Sanskrit has two meanings. So one means a teacher, the other one means heavy. So guru means heavy, very, very weighty, very powerful. So guruna here is an adjective, not a noun. So it can be an adjective as well as a noun. So normally when we say guru, it's a noun. Here guru means, an adjective means guruna dukkhena, even a powerful dukkha also does not throw one off the saddle. One of the reasons it doesn't show is it will also pass. It will pass, it will go. Because we have talked about this before also, that really our dukkha, our problems in life are one of two types. One is some real dukkha, like for example you are sick and you have some problems with the body, then that is a dukkha, no doubt about it. But the other kind of dukkha is you project something on it which is unwarranted. A typical example is that you have a kind of like a growth on your skin, and before you make an appointment with a doctor, and you know how these appointments are, they'll say 3 weeks from now we have an appointment, will you take it? So we'll say, okay, I'll take it. During those 3 weeks, your dukkha has two parts. One is the real problem that some skin problem is having. The other one is some projected problem. Oh my God, it may be skin cancer. Then you go and see the doctor, and the doctor says, no, I've just done a biopsy, it's not cancer. So the cancerous thoughts go, but the dukkha remains, and that is nothing compared to the projected dukkha. So similarly here also he says that some problems come in, you just say, you know what, it's going to go away. It's okay. It'll be done. Here Swami Maheshanji gives this I think I might have mentioned it to you, a couple of examples that he gave. Remember that example? I don't know if I was in this class or not. I always forget which class I gave the example in. So he said this was a real case where one of his students lost his wife, and he was relatively he says he was not that old, and so he says he was devastated, and he just was crying and came to me and said, my life is over, and my best friend and my wife is now gone. What am I going to do? And we all were sorry for him, and so on and so forth. He says after 6 months, I saw the guy on a roadside stall having golgappa and having pani puri and enjoying himself and slapping with the friends and so on and so forth. And he says, this is an amazing thing. In fact, he discussed it under the topic that Atma is asanga. Atma is not really connected. And in fact, this is what is going to come in this important verse number 23 in a minute. So I'll remind you of that. But this is the same thing. He says that if the sorrow of losing a wife was a part of this individual, it will never go. But he says it is simply mental. You think that my wife is very important to me, and now she is gone, so you feel very you see associated with it for a while, then you get disassociated. She's gone. She's gone. In fact, Swamiji gave another example that there was a family that lost a son. So he says, imagine two cases, one where the person who lost a son is a jnani and the other one who is an ajnani. One who is knowledgeable and who is accomplished, and the other one has not done so. In the case of an ajnani, the dukkha is tremendous. To lose your own child while you are alive is one of the worst things that can happen to you. And your whole life is now spoiled, you're always memory, you have a picture of the person, you don't want to disturb his clothes, all kinds of things. He says, let's look at a jnani. A jnani, what will happen is, supposing a jnani has a son and he loses the son, he will also be in deep sorrow for a few days. He will also go to the cremation ground and how can you not? It's your own son and daughter or whatever. He says, then deep below, you will have a connection to Ishvara. When you are meditating, you will have a connection to Ishvara and say, you know what? You gave him to me for safekeeping for 30 years. Now you have taken it away from me. I hope that he has a good life somewhere. You have a good reason why you gave it to me. You have a good reason why you took it away from me. Not clear to me, but doesn't matter. And really speaking, he's his own self, goes someplace. I am my own self. It's like two people meeting in a train for 30 years, and it's gone. And help me overcome this. And I know that I am independent, he is independent, and you are the... He says, then the dukkha is gone very quickly if you just allow that to happen. So a lot of our connections with our family and so on and so forth is all mental. This is what happens. This is so interesting. If you have a bad cold and you are sick and you have fever, then you can understand. But if your loved one has a bad cold and a fever, it bothers you. And that connection is all mental, just mental. Nothing, there's no physicality to it. And it doesn't bother when you're asleep. There's no reality to it, just when you're asleep. So going back to this verse, he says, Yasmin sthitaha guruna dukkhena vichalyate. So the example of this, the wise person, a jnani, he says he also suffers for a short time, but it doesn't throw him off the track. He goes to Ishvara and says, you know, whatever, you did it, it's okay with me, what else can I do? And you go on with your life. It doesn't really bother him on a continue. Vichalyate means it does not throw him off the saddle. I think the Westerners have a very beautiful example to this. He says, pushed out of shape. I really like this. So what happens is that pushed out of shape means when you have a string, you can stretch it for a while, but if you stretch it to such a degree that it gets out of shape. If you remove the pressure, it does not ever go back to the original shape. Something like that happens. So this is the sixth, the sixth, fifth and sixth definitions of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Okay? So that's given in verse number 22. Now let's come to the important verse which is often quoted in Bhagavad Gita, which is number 23. Let me pull out. Yeah. Tam vidyat dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samyitam saha nishchayena yoktavyaha yogaha nirvinna chetasa. So look at the translation of it first. The translation is, one should know that state which is disassociation from association with sorrow to be known as samadhi. Dhyana yoga leading to that should be practiced with firmness and with tireless mind. Another Swami Dayanandaji's translation of the same one is, may one know that to be the disassociation from association with sorrow. So this is kind of like a word play, but we'll go into that in a minute. And may you know that to be called a yoga, that yoga should be pursued with clarity of purpose, with a mind that is not discouraged. This is the translation of Swamiji's, Swami Dayanandaji's, and Swami Paramatmananda has done slightly differently. So the crux of that is beautiful example of, so Swami Paramatmananda says that if you go back to the third definition of Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, which was given earlier, which was Atyantika Sukham. Atyantika Sukham means that one, remember that definition we held. What we said was that a samsarika sukham, the worldly pleasure, comes and goes. We all know that. Something happens. This is what happens if somebody is really happy. You don't feel like asking, but your question is, why are you so happy? We expect everybody to be happy, but if a person is extraordinarily, showing signs, you find, hey, I'm glad, what's going on? So he says, I was expecting this, and I got something more than whatever. Some event-driven happiness. So then those things don't last that long. We all know that. So number 3 was Atyantika Sukham means the one which lasts for a little while. But even a definition of Atyantika Sukham leaves us with the following doubt. And that is that Atyantika Sukham also goes. So is it something which is acquired by me? or not. If it is acquired by me, then it is possible that it would be disacquired. Number 23 clarifies this doubt. And the best example of this is the state of a healthy body. This is called swastha sharira. Swastha sharira means a healthy body. In fact, Ayurveda is based on the premise that the natural state of the body is healthy. It's called swasthya. The word swasthya means, it's a very interesting word, it means self-resident, self-reliant. In other words, you don't need anything outside. You just have normal food and so on and so forth, and you're able to function very well. Swasmin sthitaha it is swastha, tasya bhavam it is swasthyam, my own natural health. And the premise of Ayurveda is that any disease is an outside interference which will come and go, leaving you pure and healthy. Lord Krishna points out that your Ananda is exactly the same way. In which way? That you seem to be connected with an outside force called dukkha, when in fact the dukkha is nothing but a visitor that will go. Your pure state is Ananda, but it has the ability to be connected to problems just because of your own thinking. And sometimes some physical problem, papam, that can also occur. But even that is also temporary. Some disease occurs you just like you have a flu, and you suffer for a week or two, and then it goes. So your nature is not flu. Flu is an outside visitor. Bugs are just coming into you, but they will leave. So this is the sense of the seventh and the last one. He says, Tam Vidyat, may you know, that yoga, samyitam, yoga is defined. This is a very important verse in the Bhagavad Gita, because the word yoga comes from the dhatu yuj, means to connect. So yoga means that I am associated, I am connected. Here, Lord Krishna reverses it completely. He says, I am telling you that yoga should be defined, yoga samgitam. Samgya means, samgya, the exact translation of this word samgya is definition. In fact, that's how it is used in the Sanskritam also. Samgya means definition. So he says, yoga samgita means yoga is defined as, actually, how is it defined? It is defined not as a connection, but as a disconnection. So, dukkha samyoga viyogam. So, viyoga means a disconnection. Disconnection with what? Dukkha samyoga. A disconnection with the apparent connection with problems. Very important verse, really. What it means is that problems are a visitor to you. This is not your nature. Your nature is free of problems. And it visits you due to a variety of reasons, the most important being your own mind. Some real problems come in, as I mentioned, having a flu is not in your mind, it's a real flu that occurs, some bugs really enter your system. Those will go away. Most of the problems we have, most serious problems we have, is all mental. And mental problems means that I am unable to distinguish between what my nature is and what the problem's nature is. Those seem to be connected. It's I am dukkhi. I am the problem. Problems occur to me. I'm unfortunate. Whatever, I'm just exaggerating it. And so, number 7 puts the stamp of reality. The stamp of reality on number 3, which is Atyantika Sukham. The Atyantika Sukham means, now with this last one, everything that went before this makes sense. No, so for example, Yasmin sthitaha na vichalyate. Now makes sense, because I know for a yogi or for a jnani that in fact it comes as a smile to my mind. That is funny how problems are occurring to me, when in fact my nature is Atma, which is completely free of problems. But apparently they are coming and they are connected to me. They lose the sting. I don't welcome them, but I view them with a smile. It is no longer it is not a fun and games. It is not fun and games, but it is also not serious. Not serious. It's not affecting me because, why? Because Atma and problems are different levels altogether. You can never have a pollution that affects space. Atma is like space. Pollution is at a different level. It can affect a room, but not space. If there is some pollution, it will just go. Even while it is there, it is not affecting the space. So similarly, the Atma, once it is properly understood, you will see that nothing really affects it. And so if there is a problem, you see that it is an apparent problem, not a real problem. So this is the meaning of this tam vidyat dukkha samyoga viyogam. So the disassociation of the association with dukkha, dukkha samyoga, the association with dukkha, to be seen that it is not me, it is simply superimposed upon me. It's very much like, sometimes you find that you were writing something with a pen or something like this, and the ink got onto your skin. And it is not a fundamental part of you. The skin has a problem. It's just an ink. You just wash it off. So this is exactly what the definition of yoga is. This particular verse is used all the time. Tam vidyat yoga samyogam, dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samyutam. That being the case, Lord Krishna says, Saha nischena yoktavya. May you see this very well. Investigate it, convince yourself with it. This is a fact. This is not make-believe or anything like this. This is the truth about yourself. And if that is the case, nirvinna chetasaha yoktavya. Lead your life with a firm commitment to see the truth of this, without any discouragement, without any worry, and just be firm on the understanding that this is the truth about yourself, which should encourage you to keep on investigating. You know, the very famous, very useful statement. And the statement is that there is a difference between untruth and truth. And the difference is, the more you investigate it, the truth becomes apparent and the untruth goes away. The less you investigate it, the untruth frightens you. So really speaking, what we need to do in our life is to investigate it, to inquire into it. Is this really a problem? And the more you do it, you find, no, it isn't. I am okay the way I am. So this is the meaning of Saha nischayena yoktavya. May you inquire into it. Don't be afraid to inquire. In fact, do inquire into it. And as you do, then this yoga nirvichanna chetasaha yoktavya. May you ascertain this very clearly without losing any enthusiasm is the meaning of it. So this then completes the definition of nirvikalpa samadhi. So nirvikalpa samadhi, again, to summarize it, it means that there is a beautiful movie about yourself that you need to be absorbed in. Don't just sit on the outside the movie house, but see it and lose yourself into it. And if you do that, it will engulf you and reveal the very beautiful plot that you are really free, even though you don't feel free, but your truth about you is you are completely free. So this is the meaning of the nirvikalpa samadhi. So in that sense, the nirvikalpa samadhi, in the definition of this, is the real goal. Everything else is a way of getting to the goal. That's all sadhana. But the sadhya is nirvikalpa samadhi. And the nirvikalpa samadhi is not just mere thoughtlessness, but in losing yourself into the plot of the beauty about yourself. This is the culmination of the set of verses which I think Swami Paramarthananda just did a superb job of explaining. I also really got a lot out of it, and it was really a pleasure teaching that. So with this verse number 23, the, the, the process and we did a lot. We also went through all of the Patanjali Sutra, put it all in all its proper place, and looked into the real goal and how do we apply it and so on. And at this point then, the Gita takes a pause and goes to a different subject matter, slightly different subject matter, still associated with Samadhi, with verse number 24 that we will do next week. So with that, I close off today's talk. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadai Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Yeah.
So the only need really would be knowledge. Everything else is a luxury. Where does addiction fit in?
So addiction of something not good, you're saying, something of that kind. So yeah, you're right, that is a pratibandhika. Pratibandhika means that it is a obstruction. So I think the first thing that we should think about is, just for this class, I'm just saying, Ramananji is asking that in this whole knowledge, in pursuit of knowledge, where does addiction fit in? That is the question. So I think the first thing that we should say is that really the variety of things in our life that prevents me from both the knowledge as well as absorbing the knowledge. There are many things in life that prevent me from doing that. So in a way, this is kind of like, I'm just giving an example that supposing you have a problem in the body where you're not able to digest. Okay? So the natural state of the body is that Bhagavan has given us all these right methods of leading a healthy life. But there can be some kind of an obstruction that allows me not to be able to digest it. So an addiction should be seen as an obstruction. So it doesn't really negate the naturalness of my life, but it's an obstruction to the naturalness of my life, and it needs to be dealt with in that manner. So the addiction has to be dealt with in all of its causes, how deep it is, and how to slowly. But if you do that, it's kind of like rubbing some ink on something, and then if you keep on washing it, and you may have to do it again and again, but then it becomes gone. So that's the way I would look at it. So I think one side comment to that is that that addiction is a outside interference. It's an obstruction. And kind of like cataract, something that the eye itself is healthy, but something is obstructing it. So something like that would be where I would proceed. Serious one, obviously. Addiction is not easy. And so sometimes the treatment for addiction may have to be, and it's very possible that you may not be able to reverse it in this life. Also possible, we don't know. All depends on Purushartha. Yeah.
On a state wherein you get absorbed with the movie,
Yes.
we are talking about absorbed with the Satyam, and there is unborn, Amaraha and all this.
So so the question is that just like absorbing in the plot of the movie, we talked about some of the movie plots. That's very just a very incomplete plot that we were just discussing. But the fairly complete part was given in the chapter 2 itself. Na jayate mriyate va na pipaschita. Hanyate na hanyat, Agni does not touch. So all the truth about the Atma, the entire set of truths about the Atma in the second chapter, and then also the Sthita-prajna's definitions of what a Sthita-prajna is towards the end of the second chapter. All that is the plot. That is the plot about the Atma. That is the plot about the reality about you and I. And I have to view it and absorb it and get completely absorbed in it. That's what needs to happen. And so there are many ways why that is not happening. One is that I have to grow spiritually to be able to enjoy that movie. That means I have to think, grow, and correct any mistakes that I'm making. This is what maturity all it means. So in other words, if I'm bothered by trivial things, that I'm not mature enough. And not the sign of maturity is that you take trivial things to be what they are, and you are associating with really important things. And even the important things will become unimportant if viewed it in that manner, just like the addiction that we talked about. So this is what the growth of the individual means. This means that you are able to see an R-rated movie and enjoy the plot of it. And so that is all part of growth. But if you do, then the entire plot is given throughout the sadhya, all the verses that we talked about, including second chapter, third chapter, etc. Yeah, so it is not just the ajara, ajaha, amara, but the entire kind of things that are associated with it. Yeah. Yeah, this vision of the samadhi in the 6th chapter that Swami Paramarthananda, because what I do is I study various Swami's exposition, and on this one I found Swami Paramarthananda's way of explaining and the way of giving examples and so on was superb, just totally superb. And his taking out the 7 different definitions of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, how they are embedded in the various Gita verses. Superb, just totally, really has really helped me personally in thinking about it. I really enjoyed that, yeah.
This time for yoga and sound at Arsha Vidya, we have Swami Paramatmananda talking to us.
Swami Paramarthananda is talking? How? Through the...
No, he'll come.
Oh,
Every
in
time Swami
Rishikesh. Where?
At Gurukulam in Pennsylvania.
Swami Paramarthananda is not going to come. Paramatmananda.
Paramatmananda.
I'm talking about Swami Paramarthananda. Yeah, he won't come.
He won't.
No, he doesn't cross the seas at all. No.
He has had a mistake.
But Swami Paramatmananda will be there.
Yes.
He's also very good, excellent. And you know, he's also coming here.
Yes.
So in April 15th, I just sent that one out. So very fortunate to. He's also doing some very good work in the Arya